Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. You're watching P3, the place where we feature individuals who have tapped into their power, passion, and purpose. I'm your host, Janie Terrazas, and today we have the wonderful Barry Selby. He has been doing these videos that I absolutely love. They're called Messages from the Masculine. And he's done 1,000 of them. And he's going to talk a little bit about all that he does. Barry, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. So it's a joy to be here and to connect and to chat and to inspire. So thank you for the invitation.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things that we have in common is, we are here helping individuals that are seeking to live optimally. I'd love for you to share with us just a little bit about how you got into what you do and what power, passion, and purpose mean to you.
So how much time do we have?
Yeah, I know, right? You and I could talk for hours.
I know we can, yes, indeed. So let me put some bullet points in to make it easier. So first of all, before we get too far into this, for those watching and wondering why I don't sound American, it's because I'm not. Yeah. Born and raised in England, lived in other countries, came to America many, many years ago and been here for a long time. So I didn't lose my accent because I didn't think I had one. So that's just me. Just to be
honest. Hilarious. I love it.
That's a different point. Let me say this part, especially about purpose, because I've had, looking back, I think right now it's about 7 different careers, maybe 8 careers now. So purpose wasn't what I was born with, at least not that I was aware of what I was born with. However, I had lots of clues along the way that I chose to ignore. And I would say the first awareness that I had something was different, I didn't know what it was when I read probably my first transformational book, which wasn't the book you may be expecting, which is Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach. I read that book, I think in my teens, a long time ago now. I do remember sitting in the the dining room of my parents' house where I grew up, reading this book, and you can read it like an hour, it's a very short book. And I remember having this incredible sense of this energy come through me, and I was in tears. I finished reading the book. It took like an hour to read the book because something in me shifted. But of course, then I went back to sleep and I forgot about it and went on to my life. So that was, back in my teens. But my first wake-up call really consciously was back in the 80s. I'll give you that. I'm going to be somewhat vague because I don't want to give myself such an age-defining moment.
Right. But you're young at heart. You're
right.
Super young at heart.
But I was in my first seminar I ever took. This is back in the mid-80s. And how I got in the seminar, I'll tell you another time. It's just a really funny story. But the truth was, I was in the seminar, and on the 3rd, 4th day of the seminar, we were sitting doing a dyad, and basically it was a workshop. And the first one I ever done, and I didn't know what they were till I went to this. So I was definitely blindly doing this process. But in the process of this 5-day, 6-day training, about halfway through, we were doing a dyad, and we did dyad through the whole thing. We were doing a dyad where we picked somebody in the room we had the most challenge with. And my backstory to another time was really about being safe around women, wasn't trusting of men. So I picked the toughest looking guy in the room, the most challenging guy I could find. And we sat down and did this diet together, and he was definitely an LA guy. He had the tan, the leather jacket, Porsche keyring on his hip, everything together, very muscly too. And so we sat up with each other and did this diet. And the topic of the diet, which we found out after we picked our partner, was, how do you hide? And the questions we asked each other were very revealing. And by the end of this diet, it's only probably 20 minutes, maybe 10 minutes each, he and I got closer and closer and closer because we saw through the walls we put up that we were the same person, really. And then at the end of that, just to really hammer it home, because the way they do the seminars, they had us at the end of the diet, sit still, open our eyes, rather, not close our eyes, open our eyes, look in each other's eyes whilst they played a John Denver song from way back when called Come and Let Me Look in Your Eyes. So at the end of that time, that's probably 25 minutes, I was bawling my eyes out. And I didn't necessarily know the why, but I felt the shift. Again, that shift came through. What I got really clearly was that all these pretense walls that I put up and that he put up and everyone else put up were just that, pretend walls. And that was probably the point where I said, okay, I need to focus on this journey. I need to make my priority this journey. And it was never my business, but it was my personal life. And I spent, many years, decades, in the personal growth industry because I kept looking for more and more openness, more and more connection, more and more divinity in a way. At that time, I didn't know it was divinity, but I had this feeling of something deeper. And so I've been on the spiritual path for many years. I ended up getting a master's degree in spiritual psychology. I became a spiritual practitioner at my church that I go to, spiritual center rather, not church. So I've been on this path for a long time. And it's truly what's driven me to where I am now. But I'll give you one more. 2006, 2007, my last bad breakup. Ta-da!
Oh, we all have it.
Yeah. Except this one was a mark in the sand, so to speak. It was a line where I realized that the same thing happened 3 times in different relationships. And she basically was the most blatant telling me what I was doing wrong, because she was telling me I was doing wrong. But what I got clearly was I was missing the mark about being a truly authentic masculine man in a relationship. Now, that was what I figured out a year later. But at the time, I was like, what did I do wrong? I'm screwed up. I messed up. But a few months after we broke up, I met this woman. And again, long story short, I went to a retreat that was about masculine and feminine polarity. And at that point, I'd never even heard of that before. Understanding masculine and feminine polarity. What is that? What's the difference? I knew about men and women and about heart opening and loving and spirituality by this point. But I wasn't understanding about, particularly in a relationship, how this energetic polarity is so transformational. But at the end of the seminar, we were doing practices with the men and women in different rooms coming together and really just embodying masculine, feminine practices. At the end of the 3 days, we were standing in front of each other, a wall of women in front and a wall of men across from them. And I had my first exposure, experience, and humbling around this incredible feminine energy, because all the women were embodying femininity. And that was when I dedicated my life from that point forward, which I still do, to serving the feminine world. And that was, again, these are pivot points in my life that changed everything. So I think that answered your first question.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's interesting that you were talking about, that vulnerability. What was the word that you were using to describe, like you were talking about having an exercise, but it sounded like you were saying a diet. What did you mean?
A diet. DYAD, a diet, a 1-to-1, like 2 people across each other.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Sorry,
no, it's okay. I wanted to clear that up. In those moments that you were having, feeling sort of those walls coming down and recognizing for men, it's hard to connect to their feelings, and reconnecting to that within yourself as a man is a huge process, an important one for every man on this planet. And it's not an easy one to traverse. The purpose for you was really to help champion the feminine. And it makes perfect sense. You started doing that way back when. And now look at the state of the world that we're in. We're having to drop from the head and the thinker and the doer into the being and into the feeler and into the heart. Obviously, self-growth was a passion for you. Then end up transitioning. You went through all these amazing experiences. I think it's so great that you had that moment with that big old tough guy.
I mean, looking back, I can see the serendipity or the joke is about, coincidence is God acting and choosing to remain anonymous. Is that quote from way back? And it's that sense I have, is that there was definitely something looking over my shoulder, like as a loving, mischievous agent of change. And that's the thing I felt. And that's the thing is, for me, yes, and let me add a couple of pieces of the story. So growing up, I was bullied in high school by boys. So being around girls was safer for me. So I had that wiring built in my teen years. And I was also close to my mother and my father. I mean, all the signposts were there. But the reality is that, especially even now, to express vulnerability as a masculine man, especially when I'm not a teenager anymore, it's still, and it's more now than, it's better now than it used to be, but up until maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, being a soft, or I should say vulnerable man was deplored by other men. They would be like, no, you can't do that. You've got to be tough. You've got to be strong. You've got to win. And unfortunately, that's the reason why so many women copied that for many years too, thanks to the women's liberation movement. Women didn't necessarily learn back then how to be feminine leaders. They became either feminist man beaters or copycats of men in the business world. So many women I dated, and many women in the world now, have spent their time basically competing with the men energetically, because that's the way the business world is built, and then forgetting how to be feminine. So that's why I've been a reminder to them. And my joy has been seeing women own their feminine and succeeding in the business world as well.
You started off by saying that, it really became a spiritual inner journey. So how does that play into where you feel you get like your power from, and how do you stay centered in your power, passion, purpose?
Well, yes. And this is the thing. I know some people who, so also history. I grew up in a Jewish family. So very, very stoic English energy and somewhat reformed or liberal Jewish family. So the Christian faith was never my teaching. And, as far as I was aware of, Jesus was a Jew. No, I'm looking at that conversation. That can get really kind of into kind of worms. But my upbringing was very, and that's the reason I got bullied too, because I wasn't part of the mainstream. I wasn't Church of England growing up in England. I wasn't Christian or Catholic, which is the main religious faith in England. And for me, again, that opening that I had a couple of times gave me a clue that something else was going on that I had no reference in books for or teachings for. So my path towards spirituality was really about discovering how to connect to that inner place, because I do believe personally that God, so to speak, spirit, the creator, universe, we want to call it, isn't out there, it's in here for all of us. So, and if anything, I'd parallel it to the way that you talk about the force in Star Wars. It's more that energetic field that everything is in. So for me, the journey has been how to really connect to a place of loving, because true for me, spirituality is based in love. There is no fire and brimstone, no deity saying, you're wrong, you're right, whatever it is. It's about love, because the true universal language of spirituality is intimacy and connection to ourselves. And so for me, my tapping in is to come back to loving myself. So if I'm working with anybody, whatever I'm doing, if it's in groups just out in the world, especially right now, being around people who are stressed and worried about what's going on with their current scenarios, self-love is one of my guiding principles, because I remember to myself that if somebody gets upset with me because I don't have the right mask on or something else is going on right now, I don't take it personally. Excuse me. I do my best to not take it personally, because sometimes I do, but then I have to go, hang on a second, let me go back inside and go, that's me. Because that's the biggest lesson of all, is that all that stuff that we feel challenged by is accessible and fixable in here. Because all that stuff out there is a reminder to ourselves. So for me, tapping into the power, first of all, is not so much like I'm powerful. It's more about powers within. And it's an infinite, and it's also a seamless continual experience. It's not something I have to go turn on or turn off. I just forget it's there. That's the only difference. So for all of us, my reminder to all of us is that when we tap in here to on camera, in here, I can see where I put my hand, is where the power really resides. And it's not ego power, like I can dominate everything. It's about heart power, connection, collaboration, bringing together. So that's my passion. So it's power and passion, sort of passion. My passion, basically, you just said, is working with women, because I'm so drawn to helping women own their feminine, because I believe, as a master plan of mine, that when we bring femininity into the world as a master leadership power, we will save the planet. So that's my platform, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's power and passion, purpose. Just to make sure I answer all you 3 P's. Yeah. Is that really, for me, and that's one thing I learned a while ago, was really what drives me. And when I was doing that training, the retreat with masculine and feminine polarity back in 2007, one of the things they talked about is, especially for man, now this is my own understanding, is that for masculine man, one of the things that helps us be more masculine is to know why we're here. A masculine man is driven by some sort of purpose, whatever that is. And it might be a career, or it might be a family, or it might be a social change. It could be anything really, but it's what it is that lights us up. And it does evolve. It's not like one thing for life usually. So my work's been shifting this last 2 years, as I talked to you about offline. So working with relationships has been my primary focus for the last 12, 13 years now. But now, I should say, I've become clear the last few years that my real focus is helping people love themselves, and by building the healthy self-relationship where everything starts. So my joy has been really serving women, but also men who want to do this, to learn to trust themselves and become back to a full relationship with themselves, because that's where the real magic is. And that's where things start from. So my purpose, as I would call it now, is helping people become master of their own domain, the one inside. That's probably the best way of putting it.
Wonderful. And once you connect to that part of self that is connected to the everything, the allness, the I am, what, like you were saying before, and I love that you brought up Star Wars, because I make reference to that, because I believe that we are here to become Jedis of love, to master unconditional love. And so go ahead.
I'm a science fiction nerd, so it is very easy access for me. I grew up in my teens. I was working in a bookstore in London. I went through probably 500 science fiction books. So the vernacular is very accessible to me. So yes, of course I'm going to do Star Wars.
Of course. And I love that Force sounds like source and all this stuff, but that you said, the power that we get from that place is also very much connected to our intuition. And so as a man, not just a man, but all human beings, we have instinct and intuition. and learning how to decipher the two. And so what has that been like? How long have you really been listening to that and choosing and making choices based on your intuition?
That's been let me say, it's been an on again, off again experience, just to be clear. So it's
Yeah,
not
of course. It usually is. Like when you build a relationship with it, you know, it's like,
right.
it's kind of like, to me, it's our divine GPS, you know, it's that connection to the soul self, the higher self, the loving self, the one that is wise, you know, and compassionate and merciful. And then there's that other voice inside of us that's like the self-saboteur and the self-critic, and, you know, that's playing the shame and the blame game and the victim and all this stuff.
Well, okay, there's a few things I want to unpack. So first of all, that instinct, intuition thing. The first clue I had, I mentioned at the beginning about when I read that book, Johnson Livingston Seagull. That feeling I think I had was really was awakening that intuition inside, really awakening that sensitivity, because I know it's been playing through my whole life. And I look back, and of course, you know, intuition's oftentimes 20/20 hindsight. And I knew better, didn't do better. And so I watched it like me miss the mark on a few occasions. Even, I mean, well, just in lots of areas of life, in relationships, even driving the car and like, you know, having an intuition to turn somewhere right and it normally wouldn't, something happens that's better. So, you know, you never know. But really it's more of I'll say a divining rod. No, it's been more of a guidance system for me. Probably for the last, well, since I started doing this work, because what I know is that I have to trust more. That's one of my big lessons, is trusting more. And in my work with clients and also my work in the world, just being in the world, I've noticed more and more that I tend to get out of the reaction focus. So it's part of what this intuition is based upon, and I talked about this in my own talks, is moving from reaction to response. And so I can tell now energetically is when I feel myself like reacting, like jumping in and trying to react, that's not intuitive, not intuition driven. But when I get to stop and go, hang on a second, is that really accurate? Or do I need to do something different? Or do I want to respond? That all comes from places more intuition based. And that's the level I'm understanding, getting more and more, is it's almost black and white for me now. I can feel very easily, because it's very simple when you get to this place, when you feel this like energetic emotion building up to to react. That's a very clear feeling. When response is one where I feel more calm, it's almost like if you feel yourself getting antsy and you want to say something, do something, check yourself first. Because response is something where it's almost like counting to 10, the idea of when you get angry, count to 10. It's more about when you have something happen, before you do anything, can you count to at least 5? And just say, okay, do I really want to do that? Or do I do a better choice? And that discernment is my internal guidance system, because what I'm doing, I know for myself, when I want to consider what's going on, I'm asking basically my intuition, my gut feeling, what do I really want to do here? Because ego, which you talked about, that lives up here, you know. And as I've said, and I've learned many times before, that the mind is a great servant but a terrible master. Basically, our heart. And if you've ever studied heart math or those sort of things, talk about how the power of the heart, the field the heart feels, is like 100 times more powerful than the power that the brain brings forward. So the energy we bring from the heart is massive. We've been trained not to believe it. So my work in the world as well is bringing people back to their hearts in relationship on their own, because that's where the power really resides. And when we do that, the ego basically becomes a great servant to a greater master, which is the heart.
I love it. And that's totally what each day, that's my practice every day. You know, it's like understanding the two and understanding how to unify them and use this amazing gift of the intellect and the mind for my greater good, for my wellness. And all of this that, you know, you're talking about, it all ties to caring about yourself and really taking accountability and responsibility for your well-being. How we are being impacts our well-being. And I love that you said, you know, you went back to that heart and the power of the heart. It's 5,000 times more electromagnetic than the brain. They now know there's this brain in the heart that's taking in information and relaying it to the rest of the body, which is why we should all get really curious about how the mind and body work. And I really honor you greatly, and I honor all those individuals out there that are taking accountability, because they are starting to realize that their health, their mental and emotional and spiritual health, it ties into and impacts our physical health. And right now with the pandemic that we're all dealing with, we've all been asked to slow down, be still. And these are great times for us to start instilling practices like breathing and learning and Googling and researching or connecting with people like Barry to kind of help you, or, you know, help you learn how to unlearn these sabotaging programs and behaviors that we took on when we were really young, or protective mechanisms.
Right. And speaking of thing, by the way, since we're dealing with this current experience, is also recognizing that a lot of what we are hearing from the media and watching, we're seeing online, is designed to provoke reaction. Yeah, it's about reaction versus response. So when we recognize that what's being presented to us is to trigger us, because that's where they get that's where they get the juice from. The more we can say, hang on a second, let me consider this first. Is it really true or not? We start to make better decisions. And we also choose to watch different things than we may be watching on television and other places. So it is important for us, I think, to really get back to self-ownership. When we are reactive to what's happening out there, we're no longer in charge. They have won, so to speak, because they've gotten reaction from us, they got the victory. When we learn to respond, we take back the power of who we are. We start to connect back to our source and our beingness, so we don't have the trigger response of, I need to fix something, go do something. Right? No, we get to say, hang on a second, what's really true for me? And that simple step, that little switch, if you can switch from reactivity to response, will change your life.
Absolutely. And that's like a beautiful way to basically describe mindfulness. You know, it's just being very mindful of your thoughts, your words, and your actions, and how that's impacting you personally and those close to you. So if there's anything else that you would like to share, and please let everyone know how they can connect with you and let them know about the program that you have available.
Oh, yes. Because of what's going on lately, one, because of the challenges people are facing, and two, because of my focus and my work shifting slightly into the self-relationship. I've been really clear that we need to really become into a healthy relationship with ourselves, energetically, emotionally, physically, mentally, all of that stuff. And so I launched actually about a week and a half ago. It's been brewing for a while because I actually started talking about 2 months ago. I launched it about a week and a half ago, which seemed to be perfect timing. A little thing I'm calling Self-Mastery Revolution, which is basically it's an easy entry, as in it's not expensive, monthly membership group where I'm going to be putting in teachings that are much more about these things I've been talking about, how to really master ourselves from a responsive, self-loving, self-supportive place so we can thrive in our lives and in the world, especially once this is complete. This journey we're on right now is complete. So that started right now, because it's monthly, it doesn't have a starting date. You can join right now, and I've got a quote early bird special. People can join right now, they get better benefits, bonuses. So that's my current focus point of what I'm doing in my life. If they just go if they go to selfmasteryrevolution.com for one word, that'll take them to the page on my website where the information is listed. It's a very simple page. It gives you basically the cliff notes of what it's about, and then you can just sign up at the bottom.
Awesome. And I'm guessing too, they can connect with you because you have a YouTube channel. Earlier we mentioned these 1,000 episodes. Congratulations. That's live, by the way. These are 1,000 live videos. And he has all the titles on there on what the subject matter is about. How can they find those videos?
Actually, my YouTube channel is my name, Barry Selby. So go to, I think it's youtube.com/user/Barry Selby. Find that. And then there's a few playlists in there. One of them is called Messages from the Masculine, Where All These Live. And also, just so you know as well, this new series of talks I started doing because of what I'm launching called Self-Mastery is also in the playlist called Self-Mastery.
And I'm looking forward to collaborating on a project here in the near future about codependency. So yes. We'll be connecting soon. Thank you again for all that you do to help others and for sharing your time with us today. And blessings on all of your endeavors.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's been a joy to share and to offer support for other people. So thank you for inviting me. I love it.
And thank you to everyone who tuned in to Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. Be sure to tune in next week when we'll feature Kevin Prince, also known as Mr. Composition. He is the creator of Dab Troll Creations and the Texas CBD Fair and Market. He's an author and he is a big supporter of evolution. You're not going to want to miss what he has to say about power, passion, and purpose. Till next time, peace be in us.